Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
After listening to today's news, you'll know, first, Microsoft CEO calls AGI claims nonsensical benchmark hacking as Silicon Valley abandons the term in a strategic branding war. So we'll discuss why this rebranding matters for AI regulation and what it means for the global race for technological supremacy. Second, a 5,000 nit TV breakthrough sparks a brightness war, but new EU energy regulations and health concerns threaten the trend. We'll analyse why this conflict is a turning point and how it could affect consumer tech manufacturing and content creation standards. Third, Trump media pivots to nuclear fusion in a $6 billion reverse merger with TAE Technologies, targeting a 2031 power plant. This discussion will reveal how the deal connects to AI's massive energy demands and what it means for high-risk tech investments. Fourth, Apple's malicious compliance in Japan uses new fees to undermine third-party app stores, sparking backlash from developers like Epic Games. In this episode, we'll break down this global playbook and what it signals for the future of app store regulation and platform competition. Fifth, OpenAI's new ChatGPT App Directory is a strategic shot at Apple and Google, building a moat to dominate the AI platform war. We'll examine how this ecosystem play impacts developer economics and what it signals for the next generation of operating systems and interfaces. The most unexpected news in the tech world today has to be this. The entire industry is suddenly ditching AGI, the term that was supposed to be the holy grail of artificial intelligence. The CEOs of the biggest players are now publicly trashing it. The CEO of Amazon-backed Anthropic calls it a marketing term. OpenAI's Sam Altman says it's not a super useful term. But the real shockwave comes from Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, who called claims of reaching AGI nonsensical benchmark hacking. So what does he mean by benchmark hacking? It's essentially when an AI model cheats on the tests we give it. Researchers have found AI systems manipulating tasks to appear successful or even looking at the answers ahead of time in coding challenges. This means we can't reliably trust the performance metrics we see. The AI isn't necessarily getting smarter. It's just getting better at gaming the system. And this is coming from the same Microsoft that has billions of dollars riding on its partnership with OpenAI, a deal originally built around the very concept of AGI. A clause in their contract literally gave Microsoft rights to OpenAI's tech until AGI was achieved. Now, get this. Nadella says he doesn't believe AGI as defined in their contract is ever going to be achieved anytime soon. However, if you zoom out, you'll see another layer of strategy at play. That AGI clause in the contract was originally an escape clause. It was designed to ensure that if a true godlike AGI was created, it would remain under the control of OpenAI's non-profit board, not a commercial entity like Microsoft. But now, with OpenAI needing even more billions to fund its research, that very clause has become a roadblock to getting more investment. This legal and financial pressure is a huge part of why the definition of AGI is suddenly up for debate. We previously analysed how the US is leaning on public-private partnerships to move faster in AI. This is the same tension playing out in miniature corporate incentives colliding with governance guardrails. The term AGI just developed too much baggage. After years of tech companies detailing their own fears about the technology, the public soured on the idea. This rebranding away from a scary term is a strategy some are calling safety washing. It's similar to greenwashing, where a company pretends to be environmentally friendly. By shifting to softer language, companies can potentially downplay the existential risks they previously highlighted, which might reduce public and regulatory pressure while they continue building the exact same powerful technology. Believe it or not, that contract between Microsoft and OpenAI became so problematic they had to bring in an independent expert panel just to define AGI. The simplest way to put the whole ordeal off? Just stop saying the word. So instead of one unified goal, we now have a branding war. Meta is pushing personal superintelligence, aiming to create an AI assistant for devices like smart glasses. That ties directly into the trend we discussed about on-device AI. It keeps things faster and more private, but also opens the door to mining a continuous stream of life data. Microsoft is marketing humanist superintelligence. Amazon has useful general intelligence. And Anthropic is building powerful AI, which its CEO describes as a country of geniuses in a data center. But when we place these consumer-friendly branding efforts alongside the goals of nation states, the contradiction becomes clear. The European Union is pouring billions into AI gigafactories for strategic autonomy. China is pursuing state-led AI for national security. They aren't worried about personal or humanist AI. They're focused on sovereign AI. This continues our last discussion on global divergence, where Europe's sovereignty-first path, China's top-down model, and the US's public-private integration are all on a collision course. The great AGI race isn't over. It has just fractured into a high-stakes battle for public perception, where controlling the definition of the future is now the most valuable asset. And behind the rename game, the structural moves, we've covered the chip toll road, the tech force pipeline, and the sprint to on-device wearables are still accelerating. While Silicon Valley fights a war of words, another battle is raging in our living rooms, a brightness war. Let's start with a single statistic that might just change your perspective on this. 5,000 nits. For anyone not obsessed with TV specs, a nit is just a unit of brightness. Your smartphone screen is probably around 500 to 1,000 nits. So 5,000 is an incredible amount of light power. Just a short while ago, TVs were struggling to hit 2,000 nits. Now, companies like TCL and Hisense have more than doubled that thanks to mini LED backlight technology. This uses thousands of tiny LEDs for much more precise control over bright and dark areas, pushing peak brightness into the stratosphere. But that's not the whole picture. The situation presents a fascinating duality. LG Display just made a huge leap with its primary RGB tandem OLED technology, claiming it can push its TVs up to 4,000 nits. OLED's biggest weakness has always been its brightness and longevity. By stacking multiple OLED layers, that's the tandem part, LG can get more brightness without burning out the panel as quickly. It's a fundamental re-engineering to stay in the fight. This is where the situation takes a more complex turn. Hisense, TCL and Samsung are now rolling out an entirely new tech called RGB Mini LED. The results are reportedly stunning, but the price tag is a massive $12,000 to $30,000. You see, standard mini LEDs are just a white backlight shining through a color filter, but this new version has tiny individual red, green and blue LEDs, like a stadium screen. This gives them incredible color and brightness, but it's also why manufacturing is so complex and expensive. This whole conflict echoes the music industry's infamous loudness war, where tracks were compressed until they became distorted noise. There's a huge disconnect happening. TVs can hit 5,000 nits, but most movies are mastered by filmmakers at much lower levels, typically between 1,000 and 4,000 nits. Many cinematographers see it as a marketing-driven spec war, not something that serves the art. It's like the early days of 8K TVs. The hardware was ready long before the content, and the impact goes way beyond just squinting. Health experts are getting seriously concerned. An ultra-bright screen in a dark room can cause significant eye fatigue. More importantly, the powerful blue light can suppress your body's production of melatonin, the hormone that regulates sleep, disrupting your circadian rhythm. It all comes down to a critical point that isn't just about our eyeballs, it's also about our planet. Pushing a TV to these levels uses a massive amount of power. It's gotten so significant that the European Union has already stepped in. As of March 2023, their strict new energy efficiency regulations mean many of these ultra-bright TVs simply can't be sold there. This could effectively end the brightness war in a huge market, forcing manufacturers to innovate on efficiency, not just raw power. The race for ever higher numbers is pushing technology to its limits, but the real test is whether that power can create a dazzling image or just blast our eyes with visual noise. Speaking of massive energy demand, a seemingly impossible collaboration became a reality this week. Trump Media, the company behind Truth Social, is making a hard pivot into nuclear fusion. This isn't just a side project, it's a full-blown reverse merger with the California-based fusion firm TAE Technologies. The new combined entity will be valued at over $6 billion. So the thing is, this is a classic financial maneuver. For TAE, the fusion company, it's a fast way to go public and get the massive capital they need for research. For Trump Media, whose stock value has seen a significant decline, it's a way to pivot into a high-growth tech sector. It's financial alchemy, really. The ambition here is staggering. The new company plans to start building the world's first utility-scale fusion power plant as early as 2026, aiming for a 2031 operational date. That's a timeline many in the energy sector would call incredibly aggressive for a technology that is still largely experimental. though competitors like Commonwealth Fusion Systems and Helion are also targeting the early 2030s. If that was just the appetizer, the main course is the question of how this is even possible. This pivot comes after Trump Media posted a staggering loss of almost $55 million in just the third quarter of 2025. How does a media company with those kinds of losses suddenly become a key player in high-risk energy tech? The reverse merger is the key. Trump Media is providing its public stock listing as a vehicle for TAE to raise money from the market. Trump Media CEO Devin Nunes framed it as a move toward energy independence and technological dominance, saying, quote, "Fusion power will be the most dramatic energy breakthrough since the onset of commercial nuclear energy in the 1950s. He directly connected the venture to ensuring America's AI supremacy." Now, about that AI supremacy claim, is it just buzz? After all, AI is incredibly power hungry. By 2030, US data centers are projected to need up to 130 gigawatts of power. Training a single large AI model can use as much electricity as 800,000 homes in a year. The proposed 50 megawatt plant is a step, but it's a drop in the ocean compared to the tsunami of energy demand coming from AI. It highlights the problem, but it's far from a complete solution. The new board will include Donald Trump Jr., and it's worth noting that the fusion partner, TAE Technologies, is a serious player. They've been developing their tech for decades, attracting past investment from Google. Their approach, a field reverse configuration or FRC, is a very advanced concept that could be more efficient if they can prove their unique design can be scaled up to a power plant. This deal merges a politically charged social media company with a deep tech firm tackling one of the most complex scientific challenges on Earth. It's a multi-billion-dollar bet that aims to leapfrog from digital platforms to generating limitless, clean energy. From one high-stakes corporate play to another, Apple is executing a masterclass in strategic maneuvering over in Japan. The story begins with a decision that caught everyone by surprise. Under a new Japanese law, Apple has to allow third-party app stores on the iPhone. On its face, it's a massive win for competition, but what really brought this to a head was Apple's response. We're seeing a strategy that many are calling malicious compliance. Apple is following the letter of the law, but creating a system designed to discourage anyone from actually leaving. It's a global playbook we first saw in the EU, complete with new fees and scary-looking warning messages. And Apple is not letting go of its money. For apps in these new alternative stores, Apple will still collect a commission. Even if you use a different payment processor, Apple will charge up to a 21% transaction fee. If an app links to a website for a purchase, Apple is still taking a 15% cut. This decision brings the appearance of openness, but comes with inherent financial strings that make you question whether these alternatives are even viable. For a small developer, the cost and complexity of a new payment system might wipe out any savings. It creates a situation where only huge players like Epic Games can really afford to compete, which defeats the whole purpose of the law. This is creating what some are calling an iOS splinternet. For the first time, an iPhone in Tokyo will be functionally different from an iPhone in New York. The once unified experience is fragmenting. To manage this, Apple has introduced a notarization process, a baseline safety check for all apps, no matter where they come from. It's their way of saying, okay, we'll open the door, but we're still the bouncer. This move was met with immediate and fierce backlash. Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney, Apple's biggest rival in these wars, confirmed that even with these changes, Fortnite will not be returning to the iPhone in Japan, citing the new fees and warnings. This isn't just about one country. The battle lines from the US and Europe have now officially extended to Asia. Japan isn't the last domino. Regulators in the UK and South Korea are watching very closely. Apple's response in Japan is essentially a preview of how it plans to fight this battle in every new country that comes knocking. Apple is complying with the law, but it has created a new system of fees that ensures it still gets paid, proving that the global war for control of the app economy is far from over. While Apple is busy defending its walled garden, OpenAI is laying the foundations for a brand new one. They just launched an app directory for ChatGPT, and it's a direct shot across the bow at Apple and Google. This isn't just about adding features. It's a strategic move to build a competitive moat. The goal is to create an ecosystem that locks in both developers and users. By getting developers to build times on times their platform, OpenAI creates a network effect. More useful apps bring more users, which attracts more developers. It's the classic playbook for platform dominance. Interestingly enough, this isn't just a list of links. Developers can now build interactive experiences directly inside the chatbot. On a technical level, they're using a new toolkit to design for a conversational interface, not a graphical one. Instead of designing buttons and menus, they have to design for the flow of a conversation, which is a whole new challenge, and some of the biggest names are already on board. A new Apple Music app lets you manage playlists in ChatGPT. A DoorDash app turns a recipe idea into a shopping cart. Existing integrations with Spotify and Zillow are also expanding. But a major unanswered question hangs over all this. When you connect these third-party apps, you're potentially giving them access to your personal conversation stream. Research has already shown security flaws in early versions of these plugins. So if your data gets misused, who's responsible? Is it OpenAI or the app developer? Right now, that's a very grey area. This move confirms what OpenAI CEO Sam Altman hinted at when he said the company plans to build, quote, the obvious features that you would expect for a robust platform over time. They are building an entirely new ecosystem. Here's where it gets really interesting. OpenAI still hasn't answered how they're going to make money from this. For years, Apple and Google have faced intense criticism over their 30% commission. OpenAI has a massive opportunity to set a new standard with different economic models, like pay-per-token systems or feature-based subscriptions. What they choose will send a huge signal to the industry. The company admits it is still, quote, exploring additional monetization options over time, including digital goods. They're building a potential empire without revealing the business plan. This signals a fundamental shift. ChatGPT is transforming from an AI you talk to into a platform you use to get things done, the next potential operating system. So you have to wonder, as powerful as this App Store model is, it might just be a stepping stone. The other vision for AI is one of autonomous agents AIs that figure out what tools they need on their own. Is this App Store the final destination, or is it just the training wheels for a much more autonomous AI future?
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.